Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today we're chatting with Giuseppe Grammatico. Stephen Hibbard also joined me on this episode because we were talking about franchising, and that's something that Stephen's looking into for his mom, and he just always brings another perspective to this podcast that I don't bring by myself. But if you guys want to have really cool people reaching out to talk to you, start a podcast. My goodness. It's so fun. The people I get to talk to as a result of having this show. And Giuseppe is another one that I just loved chatting with about how to start a franchise. He talked about the different models of franchising. His awesome story of how he bought 2 franchises and sold them 13 years later, and now consults people on how to start a franchise. And he's totally free to talk to because he gets paid from the franchise companies that are looking for franchise owners. So feel free to set up a call with him. Go to ggthefranchiseguide.com. It's for his initials, ggthefranchiseguide.com. You can learn more about him, get his book. He's got a podcast as well. But we learned a ton today about just the different types of opportunities, how you can have almost a completely hands-off type of model that some franchise companies offer for owners, where you can have a management company kind of run everything for you. So depending on what you're looking for, he takes you through a process of what are your goals, how many hours do you want to invest in this, how much money do you have to invest, and there's financing for that as well if you don't want to put all the money up front. But this is just a fantastic episode. I know you're going to enjoy it. Here it is. Giuseppe, welcome to Streams of Income. Good to meet you.
Thanks, guy. Thanks for having me. Really excited.
This is so fun. I love you've probably been on lots of episodes now because you have somebody reaching out. I don't typically say yes to like just random emails that come to me from people looking for, but man, I've been starting to say yes more and more because the guests have been fantastic. I look at the one sheets that folks are sending me, like, this is perfect. So
now you're making me nervous.
Thank you for having too high. No, this is all good. Thanks for having Val reach out. Because this is perfect. We've talked about. So Giuseppe, I just had an exit back in May. I taught people how to make money on Amazon specifically. I had a membership community for 6 years, but I know that most people who start Amazon businesses, for example, that's not the end all be all. They want to be business owners. An Amazon business typically is one that you're inside the mix of it. Like it's your business, but it is you run out everything. Right. Now people are outsourcing and moving towards that using prep centers, but I love what you're about to talk about, which is that you can own a business, but not run it if you want to set it up that way. So it's just fun to have interviews with folks that were helping people think like, I don't have to be in the mix of my business every day. Right. I can still own it as an asset and it makes income for me. So fun. I'm excited. So thank you for having her reach out to me. Tell us your story. I want to hear how you got to where you are now and what you're doing.
Yeah. So we were talking before the show of our trips to Europe. So my family's from Italy. So I'm first generation, learned English at the age of 6.
Oh, wow.
And grew up in the Italian restaurant business. And I was worked there for maybe 20 years growing up and saving for my first car.
Where was that at?
The business. What's that?
What town or city was that in?
Somerset, New Jersey. So we grew up in that business right in the heart of New Jersey, and loved the business and the food, but just didn't like the hours. You work nights, weekends, holidays, the complete opposite of a 9 to 5 job. Right. And I said, there's got to be something else. My parents never went to college, never had the opportunity. So I went to college. Got my undergrad, got my graduate degree, worked for companies like JP Morgan, Alliance Bernstein, made some good money, but I I wasn't happy. I wasn't, long commute. It was about 5 hours from New Jersey, round trip, 5 hours door to door. Didn't like the job. Money was good. Didn't feel like there was a future. So like everyone else, spoke with executive recruiters, interviewed, and came to the same conclusion. This isn't for me. So I said, I like business ownership. Maybe I'm just looking at the wrong industry. So looked at a few businesses, reached out to a franchise coach, which is what I do today.
Cool.
And said, how about franchising? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You run with the system. And that was in 06. We had that conversation. And in 07, I didn't buy just one, but I bought 2 franchises that I exited out 2020. Those businesses, looking for the next venture, and decided along the way I can coach and help people maybe not make some of the mistakes that I made over the years. And that's what I do. We help people, kind of like a matchmaker for franchising, helping them find some great opportunities.
Are you at liberty to say what industry those 2 franchises were in that you bought and sold?
Yeah, the industries were building service and commercial cleaning. So we did that. We specialized, did a lot in healthcare. When basically a necessity business. So we there was always surgeries happening regardless of the economy. So we decided to double down on healthcare. So
wow. Did you, when you owned those businesses, were you in the business, working in it?
The first month, so everyone does it a little bit differently, and this is purely by choice, and also because I was 27 years old and didn't have a lot of fun. So first month I did everything. I literally did everything, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, but I did calls, I did inspections, I cleaned toilets the first month. Coming from Wall Street now, I'm looking at my wife saying I'm cleaning toilets, but it was really the best experience that no one else could teach me, because you gained an appreciation, you gained exactly how things work, and you gain some respect when you're teaching other people. But that was just the first month. From there, we brought on contractors that were doing a lot of the work, and the rest was history. It was a great necessity business for the most part.
Yeah. Did you go into those businesses thinking that you would exit one day?
Yeah, that was actually it's a funny story. I signed the check, shook the franchisor's hand, and he goes, "Any questions?" And I said, "How do I sell this thing?" And he looked at me. He almost gave me the check back, and I said, "I don't mean it in a negative way. I mean, how do I, what's the multiple? Like, how do I actually sell it?" I had a 20-year agreement. And he's like, "Well, you could sell it at any point, but this is potentially the multiples and things like that." So I had a 10-year plan. And we ended up at year 13. We had another larger company approach us, and they essentially bought the business. So
that was at 27. You bought that franchise?
27. Yeah, I think 27.
How old was that guy that was handing you that check?
That I handed the check to was about 10 years older than me. So that started the franchise. So yeah, it was. I was so nervous that day. I signed it in the wrong spot. I signed it where you're supposed to write the amount, and I was like, it's biggest aside from buying a home. So I tell these stories because it's normal. People think it's like, well, you're calm, cool, collected. I was very nervous, and but it worked out. It was a really good learning experience, and it got me to where I am today. So
yeah, I think even sharing those experiences of like you were hands-on getting started. I think people think, oh, franchise, I use the money, I don't have to do it. It's like everybody's story is a little different, but I appreciate the authenticity of what you were going through. I thought that was hilarious though to ask. One of the first houses that I bought, I did a very similar thing. I got actually cash back at the time because the market was different, but I told them what's the best way to sell this property, and they almost stopped the deal there.
But it's true, it's important, but that was just top of mind, and I blurted it out. Looking back, maybe I should have waited, but I was excited.
You're excited. You're just like, I got an idea. I got now. Now this step is done. What's the next? Now I need to go to the next step.
I think the franchisor thought I was going to sell the next day, so I'm sure he was probably nervous. Hopefully the check cleared. So
yeah, the bank was nervous because it was owner. I bought it as a owner, not as a rental property. So they were like, you have to hold it for a year. Like you can't just. I was like, oh, I know that, but now I want to learn this part of it.
But it's good. Funny. I like these stories. It means a lot because you think everyone's perfect. Oh, they have started a business and they made money and they sold it, but like what happened in between?
So it's not like that.
No, No, more mistakes than anything else, but you learn from them. So
you don't need to tell me the numbers, but I'm curious, like the amount of money you paid for the business versus how much you sold it for. What's that multiple there, or how much you return on your money?
Yeah, this was a little different. We were a master franchise where we had kind of franchisees kind of working under you. Buy a region essentially. This is how it originally started.
Yeah.
So you buy a territory from the franchise company, but at the end of the day, we sold for 3x, three times earnings, which was pretty standard at our volume. Once we hit certain volume numbers, then that went to a 4 to 5x. So the company, I believe, that bought us out bought 10 or 11 building service companies in the area, tri-state area, and I think the goal was eventually, to sell for a higher multiple.
Yeah.
Was that a private equity firm that came in, or just another company trying to sell to a private equity, you think?
Another company. They were not private equity, so they just happened to have family in that business, and they were just gobbling up all the building service companies. So very, very, very interesting. It just happened. It was on the list of companies, and we got the call. So
that's pretty interesting. Cool. How did you have at 27 years old buying a franchise? How did you have the forethought? Like, someday I'm going to sell this thing. Like, you just get in. Most people would think, I've bought myself a job. This is going to be what I'm doing for the next 20 years. But you were thinking exit right away. That's amazing.
I thought exit because I'm like, okay, I'm growing something. So a lot of people look at, well, if I make 200 on my job, I want to make 200 in the business. And I go, those are two completely different things. So there's a lot of mindset, right? It's what's the tax, 200,000 in a business, you're taking home a lot more due to the tax advantages.
Yep.
But then people fail to realize, well, I can sell this for $1 million or $5 million or whatever the multiple is and what you're taking out, and the factors that affect that. Right? Are you full-time in the business? Are you part-time? What does that look like? So I factor that into the equation. And the one advantage I had over most people, or maybe not most people, but many people, said I had 5 hours to think about this on the bus. So I ran numbers and pro formas and what I'm going to do. So that's kind of where I was at. How can I actually sell this?
You thought that commute was a negative, but you saw it as a positive.
I had to spin it. But the way I looked at it was my goal was to sell it for a multiple, reinvest some back into the stock market, get back into business, which right now I'm a solopreneur looking for potentially the next franchise, but I wanted to have certain things and diversify, between multiple businesses, some real estate, the stock market. So I wanted to be kind of have multiple vehicles working for me, given, who knows what the future is going to bring. So.
So with your consulting business that you have, how did that get born?
That got born literally the day I bought the franchise, or actually during the process where I'm like, wow, I can see myself doing this. And I had worked with a great coach at the time. And I said, you know what, I could see myself doing this, and I can see ways of doing it a little bit more, a little bit better, where I can add a lot more from my experiences from owning businesses, some of the mistakes. So I bring that in. I look at different angles. I do a lot of education, and I allow the candidates and the families we work with to make those decisions. Like, hey, did you know you can keep your job and have a business? Or did you know that you can have a semi-passive franchise and not even, and be involved a handful of hours a month, similar to the hotel concept where they have a management company. You can have the same thing in the franchise space. And 9 out of 10 people say, no, I didn't know that. 9 out of 10 people don't even know a franchise consultant exists. So it's really fun, and we don't charge. We get paid from the franchise companies, so there's no fee to them. And then they're like, "All right, where do I sign up for at least an initial call?" Right? So
yes, that's so fun. It's called Franchise Freedom.
That's the name of the book, and the name of the podcast is Franchise Freedom. Yep.
Okay, awesome. People can go to franchisefreedom.com, or
actually my website. So it's my initials, ggthefranchiseguide.com. And you got the webinar, the book, and the podcast. And it's, if you're audio podcast, if you're visual, watch the workshop. And if you're like to read, you can read the book. It all kind of touches on similar areas.
Perfect. So it's ggthefranchiseguide.com. Okay, right. I'm on there right now, just checking out. It looks awesome. Cool.
That's the old site. New site will be launching soon. So yeah.
Nice. Do you So I love to eat. I don't know about you, Giuseppe, but like you mentioned Italian restaurant business. I thought, man, it'd be so cool to own a restaurant. I know that's probably the worst franchise to have, but it'd be so fun to walk in like the owner's here. I want that and that and that.
I love the business and I love to eat. That's why I angle the camera up this high, because got a few extra pounds to lose. But I tell people, you have options. Most people think franchising, they think of food and restaurants because they drive by it every day. But there's franchises in dog waste removal, business coaching, believe it or not, eyelash extensions. Any business you can think of. There's 4,000 franchise companies, 75 industries. And I tell people, if you reverse engineer anything you do in life, any decision, franchise or not, just any decision, if you go back to what you were looking to accomplish and what you want the business to look like, you will find a franchise. So what most people do is they drive by a popular food franchise and say, I see the line at the door. There's such a high demand. They make a ton of money. Guess what, guys? A line at the door means absolutely nothing. And I can tell you that from owning a restaurant. Are you making money? There may be demand and you have a lot of people out there, but are you actually making a profit? So my job is to educate people to say, if your goal, ultimately, if you had if you could pick 5 employees or less or something much larger, most people come back and say, I want a small team. And that's the complete opposite of a restaurant. So we explore restoration franchises. They start out with a team of 3. And they look at what they can bill, the insurance companies and how large the jobs are when you're dealing with black mold and biohazard cleanup and crime scene cleanup and things like that. And they're like, wow, I don't need brick and mortar, which is going to cost me a lot of money. I do not need a team of 20 people when I open up. I don't need to hire another 20 when I open up my second restaurant.
Right.
In service and restoration, you start off with a team of 3 and then you add as needed. Yes. So they're blown away. They're like, wow, I didn't know that existed. So it's really my job to open them up to the possibility of what's out there.
That's amazing.
Are there any, I don't know how to say this other than like vertical integration franchise opportunities? Like if you have a core business that's real estate agent, is there a franchise opportunity for you to buy high or low? Like maybe the sign people that are putting stuff in, is that like an opportunity to buy a franchise that helps your business? And do you help people with that also?
Well, I'll answer this way. And if I didn't answer completely, let me know. So when you buy, we'll look at one of the biggest kind of booming areas right now in franchising, and it's home services. It's cleaning, it's painting, it's coating businesses, it's roofing, siding, all that, anything involved with the home. When someone looks to buy a franchise, they say, okay, I am in Miami, Florida. I'm going to buy a roofing business. It's taking a step back. Who's your customers? Homeowners. So when you go to expand your business, either you do that initially or you do it later. You can grow, we call it horizontally, with additional territory if it's available. So I know this business. I'm in Miami. I'm going to look to expand into, I don't know, Florida, Tampa, Clearwater, Orlando, whatever's next to it. So we'll just name a bunch of random cities in Florida. So I can keep my investment lower, know my core business, there's no additional training needed, and just grow with zip codes. Yes. Or I can grow vertically. It's called franchise stacking or vertical expansion. Sometimes people are forced in that way when the area around them is sold. And when you're in the roofing business, they go, okay, now I'm going to add a painting concept initially, or a cleaning or landscaping. Initially, that's going to cost you more money because you're in a new business. But long-term, you'll save money via acquiring your customers, because you already have 200 customers you did roofing for. Now you're offering painting. Now you're offering cleaning and all these others. So it's really an upsell when it comes to that. So there's 2 ways to expand it. And most people pick one and end up doing both depending on the availability in their market.
Okay. Interesting.
How does that work real quick? Just take a quick example. Let's say it's a janitorial type business and it's already got a big name that you're buying into, and then you want to go the franchise stacking, but could that ever work or do you have to be more independent? Like it's not the main janitorial service that I just bought this territory of. Do I have to be Ryan's janitorial service under? Does it make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah. So, well, first off, you don't have to. It doesn't have to complement, right? So I have guys that bought a coaching business and their next is a painting business. There's no correlation. So correct. I don't want you to think you have to go that route.
Right.
When you deal with a larger parent company that has, for example, 10 different categories, 10 different brands, the advantage there is that you can start with roofing and then painting and still utilize
the same be under the same brand still.
Right. But if you go outside, if it's just a standalone, like we have a brand that's a coating business, they restore your siding, your cabinets, your roofing, and it is not part of a parent company, you can add on another home service brand outside, as long as they're not competing directly, because you wouldn't want that anyway.
Sure. Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, it does make sense. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, so you said you consult people through the process. So give me an example. Let's say, almost kind of like role playing here. Let's say I'm working a full-time job, been intrigued with owning my own business, don't want to start my own, would rather do the franchise. I'm kind of already maybe set on that or exploring that. What are the questions that you ask to get people to, I know you said, what's your goal? So for me, it's like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I want it to be, you said semi-passive. That sounds amazing. So walk me through an example of a semi-passive type opportunity.
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time on the role and kind of the average day, and that's where I think a lot of people ignore that. They're like, I like this opportunity, but I got to work nights and weekends. I'll suck it up because I like it. And I tell people, you don't have to do that. We can really get specific. Semi-passive opportunities are for the individual looking at this. It was built out of demand a few years ago. It's a small pool of companies that offer this option. And really what it is, it's for someone that wants an investment and they want to get outside of Wall Street. So maybe they have all their money tied up in the stock market. They want an alternative. They don't want to get maybe into real estate, or maybe they have some there. So really these opportunities are built on, number one, putting in, maybe 2 to 4 hours a month. So just say an hour a month via Zoom. Wow. Where you're kind of, you're still the owner, 100% owner, and you're overseeing it, making sure that you interview the manager, making big and okaying final decisions. And what they're doing is the management company is essentially charging you a flat percentage, almost like an additional royalty on revenue. So no upfront costs, it's just on the revenue. And what they'll do is they'll run the day-to-day for you so you can do whatever you prefer doing. So yes, it's not done for free, but it's also allowing you to work the business.
Perfect. But couldn't you also could you also make it semi-passive if you had one that's a little bit more active? Everybody else makes it active, but you just hire the right team, put them in place, and then you can make it semi-passive?
Yeah. So with that particular business model, that is an option. So there's three options. There's the owner operator, which means full-time. The franchise company wants you to be involved for full-time, at least for the first 3 to 6 months to learn the business. The second, the extreme end, the third option, and I'll mention the middle, is a semi-passive, still pretty new, minimal involvement. That's it. I want returns. I want to own a business, and I want a management company. Yeah. And then the sweet spot, which is a majority of the interest we get, is we call it semi-absentee, which basically means part-time. It's not full-time. What are the hours? The hours can range. We've heard, basically if we consider 40 hours full-time, then semi-absentee could be 10 to 20 hours in that range. Keeping in mind, my job is to set the record straight and just say any new business is going to require a lot of time.
Yeah, you didn't mention full passive at any point.
There's no full passive. There's no. That's really the stock market, right? Set it and forget it, as Ron Popeil would say. It's really semi-absentee is really it's manager driven. So you go in, learn the business, go to training with your general manager. Your general manager runs the day to day. So how does it become semi-absentee? That kind of middle range. And it's very simple. They have number one, the franchise company allows it and has a training program to help train and find that general manager. Nice. Number two is on you. You need to make sure that agreement with the manager, you're not a bottleneck, right? So if you have a job and you have to okay every decision for the manager, that's not going to work. So you need to empower that manager, give them some phantom equity where they're getting a cut of the profits without getting underlying equity in the business. And then lastly, support. What does the franchise company do for you? And a lot of these home service concepts, you don't even need an office, because at their home office, they have a call center built for you. They have a marketing team built directly at the headquarters. So the marketing company, for a fee, will generate all your leads. Your leads don't go to you because you're busy doing other stuff. Your leads go to the call center. The call center qualifies. In some cases, they'll schedule. Some cases, they'll take payment. In some cases, they'll upsell if you have multiple revenue streams. And they will take that off your plate. So less people to manage. Instead of needing a staff of 10 in an office, you need a staff of 3 and can work from your home, because your employees or your contractors are going directly to the customers, which are, just say, the homeowner in the residential service space. So it allows people a way to scale relatively quickly. I always tell people, a lot of the brands may offer all 3: full-time, semi-absentee, and semi-passive. Run some pro formas. Look at what the numbers look like. Make sure you factor in a manager's salary versus you leaving a job and running the business on your own. So when you have these models, you can figure out what the break evens are, how quickly you want to scale. There's no right or wrong. It's really it's about whatever you're most comfortable with.
That's cool. Can you give us some examples of numbers, what it might, and I know it varies from industry to industry, like how much you might have to invest in a franchise, and if you picked model number 2, you should be able to make approximately this much.
Semi-passive, which is relatively new, with some of the models that we work with, they require you to buy an entire market. So you can easily spend, $200,000-$300,000 plus, because you're buying an entire city or market. I always tell people, as a range, if you're looking at the sweet spot of home service businesses, semi-absentee, you're looking at, just say the 100 to 200,000 range is just a rough all-in investment. And that's based off of franchise fee, your involvement, the salary of the general manager, and if, for example, restoration, you need vehicles and equipment. Coaching, you don't need any equipment. You need essentially training, and you're off to the races relatively quickly. So very loose ranges. They vary by market, and it also varies based off of if you need an office or warehouse to get started versus others where you're like, start working from home, maybe get a storage unit, and then once you expand, you can get that flex space with office and warehouse.
That's good.
And you got funding options. That's a whole nother conversation, but you don't need to come up with this. These investment sizes are not upfront. It's essentially franchise fee and working capital for the first 3 to 6 months. So it's an all-in SBA loans. I mean, you're maybe looking at 20 to 30% down. You can utilize retirement money if you qualify, security-backed loans, a loan on your own, non-retirement investments. So there are numerous options to fund these projects.
Wow.
I said it all. I get excited, and I go and
I know Steven, you got some questions.
Well, it's more like very use cases now. What I'm thinking is like personally, but I'm always trying to think about your audience. But I really like the idea of you even getting like multiple franchises. It does seem like you can have multiple of these. So it's not just like, oh, I can only pick the perfect one. If it doesn't work out, then I'm stuck in this. It feels like there's a bunch of freedom. And having the support of the franchisor of like their call center, there just must be like hundreds of different situations and options. And I think working with somebody with you to just go like, here's my situation. This is what I think. What would you suggest for me in this? And how do I move forward with? That's why it's like hard for me to ask a question that's not very like, well, I want this very specific thing. What would you suggest just for me?
You can ask him.
Okay. So we have an agency that we're growing. It's mostly marketing right now. I'm just trying to, in my own head, think like what other opportunities are for us to buy a franchise, because are there non-competes? Because we can't really buy into a franchise that has like a marketing agency because we already have that. But what franchise opportunities are there for us for this marketing agency that you would suggest?
That's a good question. Yes, I mean, first off, you never want to compete, right? Because there's a conflict, and there's a certain way of doing business with the franchisor itself. There's two ways to look at it. It's like, how do I implement marketing? Or it's like, all right, who is your primary customer? Is it a small business? What size company is it, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm not sure if we have that set up quite like that, because we have some managers that go after different industries. The next piece that we're adding on is real estate, and we're going after brokers, like brokerages. I don't know if we have a revenue target but a company that's large enough to pay for outside staffing or services for their agencies is just kind of currently where we're at with that.
Okay. Reason I ask is I look at it two ways. It's like, how can I complement? I have a painting service, and now I want to do the roof. Or in your case, who is the it's B2B, right? You're dealing with other businesses. So in the B2B space, it really opens up those conversations. If the relationships are there, what else can be done in the B2B space? So it could be ideas, and this is not an exact correlation, but there's definitely no overlap. There's things such as not business consulting, but actual business coaching, where you're able to work on joint ventures throughout the entire country. So regardless of where you are, you can work the entire country and work with other coaches, working with small business, not just help them with marketing, but help them in 6 core disciplines that the specific brand could help in.
Interesting.
Along those same lines, there's expense reduction. So kind of taking one of or part of one of those 6 disciplines, there's a franchise that just helps with saying, we will help you cut your expenses. It costs you nothing up front, and we will essentially split the savings with you. 50-50, 60-40, whatever the split is. So again, has nothing to do with marketing, but it's going to your customer base and offering kind of a different service, completely different of marketing. There's outsourced bookkeeping services. Hey, we're dealing with marketing, but we can help you with bookkeeping. Did you know that there's a franchise that deals with bookkeeping services? So that's the angle I would look at it. Specifically with marketing, a lot of the franchise companies we work with in the home service space are actual online marketing engines, we call them, and sales organizations that happen to be
and then subcontract
poop removal space. So it's kind of, you peel back the onion. We have a marketing company that happens to be in the mosquito spraying space. So that's where they excel at. It's the getting the lead, closing them, becoming a customer, and they can essentially replicate that over and over again in different modalities. And that's in the different services they offer the homeowner.
So say in this space of home services, if we had an agency that was supplying something where they need some ongoing virtual assistant, is there a way to look at a franchise that goes, hey, if we purchase into this franchise, all of these customers could also be customers for our marketing business? Is that a thing that franchises would look at and go like, we don't want to do that because then you're just siphoning off additional customers into your own business?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question to be had directly with the franchisor. If there's any not certain, it's always good to get it in writing or review that part of the agreement. The franchisor typically will come back if it's separate. They'll say, yes, that's not a problem, but just to make this work, we would prefer to have you run this core franchise business for at least 6 months before starting to add. And I don't want to speak on their behalf. No,
I'm just thinking through what you're saying and going, is this a possibility? Because I would say, like, if there is a coaching or consulting any kind of business, some of those businesses might lead into some of these people want done for you services at any point. There must be a franchise that we can look at that goes like, oh, this is perfect. This coaches is helping course creators do XYZ, anything. These people all need this done for you service, and the marketing agency that we have will also help with all of that. Should be a good marriage of this. But I guess it does end up the franchisor need to sign off on or have that conversation. But I think that's maybe the way that I'll be looking at this, is going, I don't know if I've ever thought too much about buying a franchise, but if buying a franchise leads to clients or customers into the other business that I have, I'd be all for that.
Sometimes there's a lower barrier to entry getting in on a certain way. Maybe the coaching is a cheaper way to acquire a customer, stickier customer that stays on. and then saying, okay, marketing is one of the areas we can help with, giving suggestion, but we're not going to actually implement the strategy. And that could be a way to refer that to your other business. But always, I tell everyone, always run that by the franchisor just for,
and get it in writing. Yeah, just
because sometimes the FDD, when you read the agreements, they get a little confusing. So always bring that up. But I don't believe that would ever be an issue.
Wow. Okay. Giuseppe, we have a lot of VAs in the Philippines, and we love our VAs. They do tremendous work. Are there franchises that you could think of that you could run primarily using remote workers like that?
That's a good question.
Or at least part of, maybe not every step of the way, but a large portion of it being done with those types of folks.
A lot of the brands are giving you you're paying for, you're paying the royalty, you're getting the support, and a lot of the stuff like the marketing and everything is off from you. So taken off your plate. Okay. I have talked to franchisees, and where they needed an additional assistance that wasn't even offered by the franchisor was like a personal assistant. Yeah. So a personal assistant to jump in on some of the calls or meetings, a personal assistant to organize the day, to help with the schedule. So the franchisor may schedule appointments, or they may just generate leads. They may make the call center optional. So those leads may come in, and then your VA may be the one to actually book the appointment. So there's plenty of autonomy. Again, it's going to be based off the brand, but where I see a lot of opportunity with VAs, including I'm also in the process of looking. I'm a one-man army, and trying to do everything on my own. It's having just the assistant saying, do this research for me, utilizing AI, Chat GPT, and all these other, input this information, help me summarize it, and just make me a little bit more productive. So a lot of brands allow it, and a lot of brands are adding. We just had a call this morning, a company, and they're adding AI directly to their marketing, and they're adding AI to their support. So you can ask the AI questions, and it'll reference you right to a video.
Wow.
10 o'clock at night in the office, the home office is closed.
Yeah.
Not only their training, but their support.
That's awesome.
So lots of potential options. It's really, it's a business in a box. It's a system. The value I see with a lot of the companies is it's a built-in mastermind. Some of the brands, we just had someone go to their first meeting, and there were 250 other franchisees, and some are part-time, some are full-time, some are from Wall Street, some are from, the manufacturing space, and everyone brings a different angle, different viewpoint, and ideas to the table. And on top of that, these neighbors of yours, these fellow franchisees, could be your next potential buyer of your business, or it could be an acquisition, very inexpensive way to grow your business without having to go through a broker. Doesn't help our business, but I'm very honest, and I like to tell people, if you acquire a franchise under your umbrella, if you're a Subway franchisee and you buy another one, you don't have to go to training again. So and you avoid the broker fees if you acquire the neighbor, right? So it's easier for everyone. So so there's lots of ways to leverage this mastermind built into the franchise companies.
That's so
cool.
Yeah,
it's such a mind shift, I guess. I think you mentioned at the beginning where you like driving and you see franchises and you just assume like, oh, a restaurant is the kind of the only franchise. You don't really dig deeper into the different options, because even that franchise that you said that owns like other, would you call it master franchise? I made a note of it, but
master franchise is when you own a state and you sell franchises, but that's just as one of the examples.
Yeah, that's a newer term to me. A friend of mine had one of those, and I didn't understand that until having more conversations with him of like, what does that actually mean? But he started with one location, then he got more, and then the people liked his operation, how he was actually hiring the people in the staffing side of it. So then he took over, I think, the whole state at one point, and he sold it off now. But it's just interesting to see. Like, I don't know why I think of franchises like you have to only do a restaurant and you have to be an owner operator and you have to be in that business. It's almost just like buying a job, but that's not the case. And even the way that you're doing it down to like the granular level of like, I can talk to you about your specific, you have this business, you don't have this much time, you don't want to work at nights. Like there's a custom option for you is fascinating.
Yeah. When are you available? What's your investment? What's your timeline? We get into that. where do you live? Where do you want to operate? That alone is going to flush out. And the more
do you ever do backgrounds? Like, what background do you have? Are you in food services? Interesting.
What I'm not so concerned about the background when it comes to industry. Sometimes no background is better than a background,
really,
because you are so ingrained in doing it one way, and you're not open to the franchisor. You know, as far as their way of doing things, what's most important to me, and I think in the match, is what is your skill set. Skill set is transferable across. If you're good at sales, it doesn't matter the industry. So if you're good at B2B sales, I'm working with someone right now, B2B sales. He's looking at expense reduction, business coaching. There's a concept that we have that helps, that does drug testing for small businesses in the area. So, you know, this is a B2B sale. So he can leverage his skill set, had zero experience in drug testing or even coaching, but he's able to leverage the skill set. And then the franchise companies, for the most part, will train you from scratch. So it really opens up the doors. Where the point I like to drive home is that there are plenty of options, but if you write on a piece of paper, what does the day look like? What's your skill set? You want a lot of employees or not? Where are you located? Are you working from home or within, you know, four walls and traveling to an office? These little we call characteristics, these requirements, not little, these actual requirements really help you scale, you know, the list of franchises to a more manageable amount. And I would say three companies doing due diligence, maybe an hour or two a week with each, that's a lot of time and that's a lot to grasp. So when I give three companies that all compare and contrast with one another, you start to say, I really like all three, but I really like this B2B. Let's double down in the B2B space and maybe rule the others out. And, you know, guys that have jobs and aren't ready to take that leap, it's not my job I took the leap. Some people are not in that position or just not comfortable. And I'll say, these are the brands that will allow it. You know, this is, you know, we'll look at a time frame, but remember, with the job, we could be let go at any time. So how do we create the safety net? How do we create this business? Maybe we never leave our jobs, but we have a safety net in the event we get downsized down the road. So it gives options. It's safety. There's ways of opening up. And I'm jumping around here, but franchises, IRS Section 179 allows you to depreciate not the whole investment, but certain parts of it, like the service vehicle, the equipment, all in the same year.
Yep.
So someone said to me, well, if I don't have any revenue for the year, how does that work? You can offset your W-2 income.
Yep.
Do you target high earners like doctors and lawyers? Because this seems like a really good opportunity for them, especially being able to offload W-2 tax implications.
Our target market is corporate executives that a lot of them have owned Airbnbs, has some real estate properties. What is a corporate executive? It's someone that I define 5 to 10 years experience that realizes their job maybe isn't the end all be all. And number two, the missing piece in many cases is they have some money to invest. It's not a no money down on midnight infomercial. There is money that needs to. There's risk, and that's done intentionally. You know, you have to have skin in the game.
You're not promising no investment in $1 million.
Unfortunately, not. That's tonight at midnight. We're going to do no money down.
Is that?
No money down, 100% returns. And you know, I started in my 1-bedroom apartment with no money. Now it's you got to pay a franchise fee, and for someone that tells me that, you know, I don't see the value in the franchise fee, I'll say, well, it's a proven roadmap. It's trial and error. The franchisor have spent hundreds, if not millions of dollars of their own money. So either we have a bad match with franchise company, or you don't see the value in the franchise company, which is fine. You could do the exact same business on your own. It'll absolutely, take you longer. But what we're seeing is franchisees going in, they have a business plan that they never acted on. They buy a franchise. Then they're like, I got a franchisor motivating me. They make money when I make money. I have a coach that's assigned to me. I have systems in place. Now that I have the franchise in place, I go back to my Word document, on my laptop, and I'm like, you know what? Now I'm motivated to launch my non-franchise business. I've seen that happen a few times. So just because you buy a franchise doesn't mean the next one has to be a franchise. You can leverage what you learn and apply that to your next business. So
that's so good. Are any of these opportunities outside the U.S.?
We specialize U.S. and Canada, so we do not. We work with people, E2 visa candidates. We just had someone in Toronto that's looking to move to either Florida or Texas. We haven't finalized that, but we do work with people as long as they're one of the treaty countries.
Okay.
I did a whole show on that very complicated topic.
Really?
There is franchises outside, and that's where master franchising comes up a lot, where they're U.S. based, Canadian based. Yeah. They want to expand to Italy. Someone will buy the entire country of Italy, the rights.
Interesting.
And then they will find the franchisees. And essentially what they'll do is they'll buy the rights to a country. They'll find all the franchise. They'll say there's room for 50 franchisees. They'll find the 50, and then they'll split the franchise fee, and they'll split the royalties.
Interesting.
And they'll be their support personnel in Italy.
The whole reason I brought that up, we were in the Amalfi Coast area, south of Naples, and to get a guy to like a cab, a taxi. These were mostly private drivers. The hotel we were staying at had to pick up the phone and call around to all these guys' cell phones. I'm like, there's no Uber here. There's no Lyft. Like, it seems like they
didn't have Uber out there. That's we had it in Sicily. I didn't realize. I thought it was all maybe it was that section.
Maybe just that section of the Amalfi Coast area. But people were, as we were in this guy's van, who's a professional driver, he was taking us to the airport. He got several calls like from people like, are you available right now? Are you available right now? That's such an inefficient system. It's like, so
how do you keep track of that? It needs to be scheduled. Yeah.
It's like, golly, all you need is like Uber or something. So
there's a lot of operators. I always say, if you're good at something, a franchise will take everything off. Like we've had painters. I had a gentleman, he has his own business, 20 years. He's been a painter. He's looking at a franchise. And I said, well, why do you want to look at a franchise? He goes, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a CRM. I don't have a follow-up system. My billing is like, he's accepting checks. He's finally upgraded to credit cards. And then he came back to me and said, if I buy this franchise, it's a big upfront extra expense. But just on the paint alone, what I could buy through the distributor is going to save me another 10 or 20%, I think it was.
Interesting. So he's buying that system. So now he knows
he's looking into buying. Yeah. And he's got access to cheaper product. He's got access to additional vendors that he can sub out some of the work. He's got access to marketing. He's got someone picking up his phone. His infrastructure doesn't change. He's still the guy in a truck, except he's now driving. He will be driving less. Yeah, he's building a network.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's but people sometimes can't get past the fee. So if you are looking at franchising, there is a fee. It's a one-time fee.
Yes.
And you're getting that unfair advantage from the franchise company. But it's not a pro and a con. It's really, if you're looking for the system, great. If you don't see value in the system, I would say not looking at a franchise, which is completely fine. We shouldn't all own franchises. So
right. So cool. Well, Giuseppe, this has been a fantastic. I know Steven's got more questions, so he'll probably want to stick around for a couple minutes after we end this. But thank you for doing this. And this has been super fun. I've learned a ton, so appreciate you being on.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the invite. Take care.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.